But I want to give you another duty of water which will relieve your mind greatly, because this one totally replaces petrol. You have a little stream trickling along here. You can lead it out a bit and then drop it quite easily. So we'll let it out. A little shallow box, and we've dropped it. And I'll do the details up here. You have a sort of large funnel, and inside the funnel you have a solid cone of aluminium, all drilled out with holes. And you put lots and lots of drinking straws in it. And then you put the water down this funnel. It sits in a box, and away it goes down here. Now, what's the effect of that? What do you think happens? The water goes down that pipe, but what else is coming down? Why those little drinking straws there? Yeah, because as the water flows down here, it sucks air, because the higher the pressure or speed, the lower the pressure. So all those little straws are sucking air desperately, and that means there are thousands of little bubbles entering this water stream that were not there up there. Down she goes. Now, as those bubbles rise fairly slowly and the water falls fairly fast, they never actually get out. So down she goes. I'll interrupt it here and we'll look down at the bottom again. Now this pipe is turned into a large underground chamber. You can see you need a few miners. And that's 100 to 300 feet, or 100 metres deep. Down come all the bubbles. They go in here. You can have a steel splash pan. The bubbles get out and go to the top of the chamber naturally. They can get free of the water now, but the water gets up here and goes back up here and goes on. So the water's not used. But what do you think happened to the bubble on the way down? It's got 200 feet of water above it, didn't it? It got tiny, didn't it? Yeah, highly pressurised. Did it get hot like it does in your bike pump? No. Why didn't it? It's totally surrounded by water, and so the water very rapidly removes any heat of compression. So this air is very valuable. It's called isothermically compressed. 2 L's and a Y. Isothermically. It's the same temperature all the way down. Now, isothermically compressed air is not air which is hot and contains vaporized oil like it does out of a compressor. It's very, very clean. It's the sort of air you would like to have in your breathing apparatus when you die. And it can be sold for that. Are you diving or what? How are you going to get it? Easy. We make a little hole down to there and we take it up to our workshop, put a little tap on it, and we've got a vast reservoir of isothermically compressed air. Every 25 feet we go down, we've got 14 psi or something. We go down 250 feet, we've got 140 psi. Something like that. 140 psi will blow your tyre to pieces. And you put it in your child's ear to clean out the dust, and you take their head right off. So this air goes up to your workshop now, and you've got a compressed air workshop. Compressed air will drive every machine that anything else will drive. But there are some things to do that you can do with compressed air you can't do with anything else. For instance, you can lead a little pipe into an insulated room and open the tap, and what happens? Where's your physics? Did none of you ever take physics? What? Speak, bastard. What happens when we suddenly release pressure? It gets cold. So you let a little pipe go in an insulated room, what you got? Bloody great freezer. So the other thing is, we can bottle it just as you would bottle any gas. And we can feed it into a regulator, any gas regulator, and we can take it to a motor and drive it, because what we're dealing with is a gas. It goes through the motor and comes out as air. But hot or cold air? Thank you. And so they used to make motor cars, and thousands of them in the old days, which had a little gas cylinder under the seat, 3 cubic metres, 3 cubic feet, little 7-horse slide valve steam engine, purrs along, theoretically unlimited speed. Slide valve because your exhaust ices up. So exhaust pipe was taken to the back of the car, where you had a large wicker basket with champagne and chicken and vodka in, and lined out with cushions, and your exhaust froze your food for you. So that's a nice car to have going up and down Melbourne streets, isn't it? Purring along, cooling the day down. And everybody's got chicken. You can't say, what's that on the back there? You know it's their vodka. Pour us a glass of gin buck. Do you know the recipe for a gin buck? It's time you did. This is all the way from Kentucky, friends of mine. That's a bottle of gin, and you put your hand there and put 2 fingers like that. And you pour that much, 2 fingers, into a glass, or no, you turn it into a big stainless steel quart jug, 2 fingers of gin. And now you fill the whole thing up with little round ice pellets. And then you think it's full, but it's not, because those ice pellets got all the space. So you rip the top off a can of Sprite, and you upend this can of Sprite into your pellets with your 2 fingers of gin, and it fills it neatly to the top, 1 quart of gin buck. It's rather a nice thing to make, and you can get quite flashy at it. And it lasts you about 20 minutes. Now, in Kentucky, you're allowed to drink and drive and tell jokes, because so is the sheriff. In fact, several occasions we had the sheriff in the middle drinking his gin buck. So everybody's drinking gin bucks and driving, and nobody's blaming anybody for anything, because they're all so pissed they wouldn't know if you had an accident or not, really. How did we get there? Oh. Well, can you imagine how we're making ice pellets if we've got a compressed air engine driving our car? We're freezing our own ice pellets. It's a natural gin buck production system. Come on, now.
That system that you just described, does it have a single name?
Yes, you'll love the name. You can Google this too. See this bit here that puts the water in? It's called a trompe. You know that word, don't you? You've been to many an art gallery, and there they are. Trompe, aren't they? Smack in the eye. Have you seen Trompe? Who's the architect to get on a meeting at lunchtime? What's a Trompe? Tell them what a Trompe is.
It's like Trompe, which is an illusion.
Yeah, you're going along the street and you see this bloody building. Yeah. It's a smack in the eye. It's a shock to the system. Or art is often that. Well, this just simply is Trompe. And if you let this go up top to, it could get it in your eye. Now, remember we took the air off into a workshop. Everything works off that. Your vices, your drills, your sandblasting machines, just everything. And the Swiss make all the tools to go on the end of that pipe. So they'll make you anything. I was thinking the other day, and the things you can do with compressed air you can do with nothing else much, is run little, what do you call those? Little pneumatic drills. Yes, see the word pneumatic creeps in here. And you can do sandblasting. And you can do direct refrigeration. You don't need any machinery. And you can drive car just on 200 miles with 2 cubic feet of compressed air. Ha, ha, ha. With a cold exhaust. Do you sometimes wonder why you're not allowed to drive a compressed air car in Melbourne? No, the oil company bought out the compressed air car company and closed it down. 1935. They bought all the compressed air businesses, cars, everything, closed it down, and tried to patent the Trompe. Failed. Very good reason. The Trompe is ancient. And it's used by Catalonian smiths to blow their forges to heat up their iron. And only people who had any control of it was the Roman Catholic Church. Did somebody laugh? This is serious. And they used it quite a lot. To work miracles. You get any damn statue to weak blood if you've got a good Trompe. Just stick a pipe up the bum and put a small amount of red dye in and a minute hole here. and you can close big brass doors. You walk up to it with a bishop, might strike it and say, "Open sesame," you know, and start your little thing going and your doors swing open. You can work a lot of miracles with a Trompe. And as nothing can be seen, you know, there's no way you can find out how they're doing this. You think perhaps that statue's work, you know, weeping blood. How miraculous. So, yeah, it's for... so they could keep it. They, what's the word when the church throws you out? Yes, they would excommunicate you if you had a Trompe. And it's the only way they prevented the spread of it. But the miners stuck to it and had it from prehistoric times till the present day. Because down mines, isothermic air is worth gold because it cleans out the dust in the mine. It itself won't explode. And it cools the mine. Once you're half a mile or so down, you need to cool down a bit. And it works pneumatic hammers, which you want if you're a miner. And some of these machines were 4,600 horsepower. and they'd have about 2,000 little straws through the cone. So they're gigantic machines, the whole mine, stamping presses, pneumatic hammers.
What type of container holds the water and holds the air?
Drawn steel. Once you're up about 100 psi, you need to go to pretty sophisticated containers. You can go up to thousands of psi. You use a thing called an intensifier. There's a very strong cylinder. It has a plunger in it, and it joins a very large cylinder, which you let compressed air in here and drives this large cylinder down, and it pushes the little cylinder down, and out here you can take air at 1,000 psi or more and put it in your car. 1,000 psi, drive you about 300 miles. About 2 cubic feet. It's only a little tank. And these cars are made by the hundreds. And by unsurprisingly, the compressed air car company of Chicago. And they're extremely cute. Now, of course, if people are manufacturing compressed air cars and Trompes and selling the compressed air to run trams, and all the trains ran on compressed air, and all the cafes and restaurants used mainly compressed air, because everything they did you could do with compressed air. Fine chopping, mincing, freezing, all that, compressed air. All you want is a little compressed air pipe coming to your restaurant and you can do the lot. So there were compressed air magazines called, unsurprisingly, compressed air. You can tell as engineers about, there's not a lot of imagination flying. I don't know who did the Trompe bit, but I suspect it was a Catalan blacksmith when he blew all the coals out of his what's that thing he hits his steel in? Forge. And shouted, Trompe, he says. That's a bit of a surprise. And there's another surprise, which I know you'll enjoy, and that is, in your workshop, here comes your compressed air pipe out of your container, but periodically, your water's going to rise over the base of the pipe because you've used too much air and you let the water rise. And then when you do that, you have a valve here which can blow off. Like you have a hot water, a valve out of your hot water system which blows off steam. And this one blows off excess compressed air and some water. So out of it comes bullets made out of ice. And what you do is, you have visitors, of course, come and look at your compressed air workshop. And there's a loud noise, like the devil farting across the Mediterranean. But instead of a soft, hot, sulphurous wind, which is what you get from the devil, I'm quoting directly from the Arabic now. When the devil farts across the Mediterranean, fold the sails of your dhow and stay home. I got that from a Yemeni manuscript of the 12th century. I've never forgotten it. And so this thing blows off ice at great speed. And so usually what you do is you hang the hat of your visitor on the blow-off valve. And when it blows off, you just wash their face. Their little hat is demolished in shreds. The engineers had fun in those days, you know. I tell you these things so you leave no detail out which can bring joy. You'll never forget the devil farting across the Mediterranean. You fold the sail of your dhow up and just sit it out. Now, Trompe. So, see there it's there. It was always there. It's extremely efficient. You can run it all over Melbourne or anywhere you like. You run it for thousands of miles. Compressed air doesn't lose its power by being run around. And you want to double its power, you bring it into the house and you put a match underneath it and boom, you raise the temperature very slightly and the energy goes up sort of exponentially. What about electricity? Well, in the old mines, they had a little turbine on the wall about as big as a hubcap of a car. And as you went by, you turned the air on and your lights came on. It was just a little turbine on a generator. So compressed air very easily converts to electricity because no problem getting good high speeds on generators. Anything else you want to know about it? Bugger all. See, you can have quite a gentle stream falling quite gently. You're only going to take it up 10 feet and drop it down this shaft. And when it comes back up again and goes on, you can drop it down again somewhere else. So time after time after time after time. Trompe, trompe, trompe. And one thing everybody knows who grew up in the days of Trompes is that there's a lot of trout in these streams because you never get every bubble out. And so you have very well oxygenated water going from Trompe to Trompe. So it's very beneficial. There you are, you had it all. Wait a minute. It comes back up the shaft. Here's your Trompe going down the shaft. There's your storage. You filled up your thing. It comes back up and goes on downstream. Comes down in a pipe and goes up in a well. You can, but it's not that good for your bubbles. You know, I mean, if you use fairly clean water, you end up with extraordinarily clean water because as well as being isothermically compressed, it's removed all contaminants as dust. It's a very good system. And it has the benefit of being used very widely in the past. It's all been tested, and there are lots and lots of literature about it. Now, go to Melbourne University's Engineering Library, take the word Trompe, and get all the books on Trompes out. And how many do you think you're going to find? None. And have you ever heard any of the alternative energy people mention compressed air? Because in 1936, every one of those books was borrowed out of every library I've been to, and they never came back. So not only did they buy it out, they closed down the data. Go check it out. You got the library. Then go and Google it, and you'll find that I at least have mentioned it and drew it and lectured about it.
Interestingly, possibly discovered by the Romans.
Yeah.
Who didn't really have the technology to use the compressed air. They knew it was there.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the metal fittings and
no, they had lead, as they could take a certain distance with lead and things, but they didn't have the materials to use high pressure air.
Possibly a clay pipe dropped off a viaduct somewhere with some kind of fancy straw mechanism pulled the air in. It was sort of haphazardly discovered.
It's a beautiful system, no moving parts. You know, in and out fast, no one gets hurt. drive anything. And you can't forget the name, can you? Trompe.
Does it cost a lot to build them now?
What?
Does it cost a lot to build them now?
Bugger all. I made one in New Zealand once out of a plastic funnel and a plaster. It was a cone with drinking straws through it, and we let it downhill in the pipe and stuck it in the 44-gallon drum. We blew the drum to pieces. Oh, God. Yeah. So you got to watch it because compressed air is powerful stuff. You know. You don't want to go sucking on it or anything. You know. Okay. Why did I go on to that? I just want to solve all your problems. I just did. Clean energy, no residuals, no problems. Tons of it about. You take it for miles. I had it all through Chicago and entirely through Paris. Every car, every tram, every train ran on compressed air. Every fridge was a compressed air fridge and cool room. Every cafe ran on everybody ran on compressed air.